Hey, deserving listeners, Love is Blind on Netflix. Let's watch.
Easier for me to say, hey, when the time comes, don't stress so much about the future and situations. Let's just be here in the moment. And it's such a perfect dynamic. And I was so excited meeting everyone else because all it does is sort of...
I love you to death. I'm obsessed with you.
I might be chatty again.
Literally cannot get a word in.
I'm so sorry.
I'm obsessed.
Okay, so it looks like what happened was she perceived that he was talking a lot and not asking questions or not taking a beat to see if she had something to say or whatever, not letting her get a word in edgewise. She wasn't trying to say anything. So, if she had tried to chime in and he interrupted her or over-talked her or something, then that would be one thing. But anyway, it looks like this is not the first time that they've had this conversation because she said, Stephen, I love you, and then he was like, oh, am I being chatty again? So it sounds like they've had a conversation. He immediately says, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I say, yeah, it happens sometimes, I would venture to say that at least a majority of couples have one person that talks more than the other. Take a guess in my marriage which one I am.
Obsessed with you, but Jesus Christ.
I know. I'll put this in my mouth instead.
Okay, she seems actually resentful. Let's rewind that. Her demeanor isn't like, hey, you're doing that thing again, he. It seems like this has happened to the point where she's actually resenting him.
Else, because all it does is sort of...
I love you to death. I'm obsessed with you.
I might be chatty again.
Literally cannot get a word in.
I'm so sorry.
I'm obsessed with you, but Jesus Christ.
I know.
And if you're going to ask someone to shut up, telling them that you love them, that you're obsessed with them is a good tactic. I love you, please shut up, I'm obsessed with, the sandwich thing. But anyway, let's watch this. It looks like she's resentful, which is fine. I don't know the context. Maybe he's been told many, many, many times.
I'll put this in my mouth instead.
It's very hard for me. I'm really trying to what you have to say, but I have to say.
You're right.
Come on.
I'm trying to understand what, maybe this will iron itself out, but she's continuing to eat. They've had some drinks. This is after the pool party. They're going back to the hotel room. I'm pretty sure the camera crew wants to capitalize on post-pool party intoxication conversation. We've seen a number of these. I think the Izzy and Stacy one where he was crying in the closet, didn't that happen after the pool party? So anyway, so she is starting to talk. She's like, oh, it's really hard for me. So maybe she knows that it's hard for her to interject or something. I will say that there's a spectrum, but there are two ends of the spectrum, which is that there are people who listen and wait for the other person to ask them a question or wait for a long silence before they will chime in. At the other end of the spectrum, there are people who will talk and you have to interrupt. This is within the range of healthiness. There's people outside of this range of healthy range. You have narcissistic people who won't let you talk or over-talkers who won't let you talk. And at the other end, you have people who never say anything. But within the healthy limits, you have people at this end, the chatty end of the spectrum, where they talk and you have to interrupt them and they want to be interrupted. They figure if you're not interrupting or if you're not trying to chime in as soon as possible, then you don't have anything to say, and they might even feel responsible for keeping the conversation going, so they just keep talking, waiting for you to engage, So when two people at this, both healthy, they meet up, there will be misunderstanding. The chatty person will say, they're a dud. They don't say anything. they don't care about our friendship or our relationship, or they don't have any thoughts or whatever, that kind of thing. And then the more quiet person will say, he didn't shut up. He never let me talk, that kind of thing. There's also another spectrum which is related, where people will, there's some kind of rhyme here. They'll relate by asking questions, and then other people will relate by sharing. There's some kind of, I'm terrible with idioms, but anyway, the point is that at the quiet end of the spectrum, you have people who show empathy by asking more questions and by reflecting and saying like, wow, that must have been tough, or, and then what happened? And then you have people that are more likely to be chatty, and these people relate by sharing their own experiences. And they, as you're telling something that's interesting, like, oh, I had this thing with my boss today, it was really rough. And then their way of empathizing is saying, oh my God, I've had that happen to me too. So for two people at each end of or wherever they are on the spectrum, they will understand each other. If you have two people who relate by telling, there's some rhyme here. But anyway, if you have two people who relate by telling their own stories, then those two people will just only talk about themselves and yet feel validated and empathized with. And then people at this side will feel a lot of understanding and empathy because they ask a lot of questions and they won't insert themselves. They have to be drawn out, right? You have to ask them questions. They're waiting for you to ask them a question. And so when people are, cross the spectrum interacting, there could be a lot of hurt feelings. So something like that could be happening here, where she is the sort who is, more on the quiet end of the spectrum, might have a harder time asserting herself or inserting herself into a conversation. And he's more on the side where he's waiting for her to engage or something. Thus far, we haven't seen him be overbearing or bulldozery. So maybe he's more above average on this side, but she's really over here. I don't know. Let's see how this plays out.
Babe?
You're right.
Well, if you have something to say, why are you eating and saying nothing? Wait, I keep interrupting. I'm going to rewind a little bit, and I just want to watch this thing.
You're right. You're right.
Come on, babe.
You're right. You're right. You're right.
We have to share the space.
And Steve, me and Steven at the same time, I'm guessing maybe a lot in the audience. He's being nice. He's like, okay, yeah, I'll shut up. And then you just stare at her while she eats chips. And I've been there before. I've been at Steven's, okay, go ahead. And then you stare at him for like 30 seconds. Tick, tock, tick, tock. Now, if she wants to say, I just want you to shut up. It's just a lot. Can you just shut up? Honey, I love you. I'm obsessed. I love you. Can you just shut up? Can we just sit here in silence? I'm obsessed with you. The sandwich.
You're right. You're right.
We have to share the space. Seriously. It's funny, but it's like kind of not getting funny a little bit.
I understand.
And he's being super cool about it, right? It's very differentiated of him on camera to be, very quickly. She's like, babe, I love you. And he's like, oh, that it's not like, hey, what, it's like, oh my God, I'm doing it. Sorry. He's being quiet. He's like, yep, you're right. You're right.
I wanted to talk to you about the Alex and Tim.
Okay, good. And again, she could be intoxicated. I don't know. Maybe she didn't have a drink. But for some people, which is totally fine. At this end of the spectrum, I am not like this. My wife is actually like this, where they might need that much awkward, that's my word, silence before they can, I don't know, get the word out or feel like they have the floor or something, or clear their brain from all the chatter that's been injected into their head or something. Anyway, so she had a topic that she want. Now, I'm guessing that if she were on this end of the healthy spectrum and she were to say, oh my God, okay, can we talk about, I got to talk with you about the whole Tyler thing. Like, can we talk about that? Like, another person would have inserted that, right? Or just interrupted him and he would have been like, oh, okay, right? There's assumptions that we can assist ourselves by dismantling or by putting into question. From her end of the spectrum, the assumption is that if someone at this end of the spectrum is talking, then they do not want to be interrupted, or they don't want a subject change. That can be true, but it isn't necessarily true. It's possible that because that's how the more quiet people operate from is, well, you don't just interrupt people. That's not okay. And you don't just change the subject on people. That's rude. Whereas people at the chatty end, they want you to. They want you to engage. And if you have something to say and you have energy around it, they would enjoy you to derail them, because it keeps the conversation going. Boom, 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 And then the assumption from this side is that silence is awkward and that silence is bad or something to avoid, right? And so, like when I watch this, and maybe when Steven is there, he's like, so we're just going to sit here in silence while you eat chips? But at this end of the spectrum, and maybe she's really at this end of the spectrum, it's like, we need things to be slow, and then I can start. And when I feel comfortable, then I'll start. And I would like you to wait. And it's not hard. It's just 5 seconds or 10 seconds. It's not the end of the world. But for people at this end of the spectrum, it can be hard. And there's an assumption that if there's silence, then people don't have anything to say. That's another part of the assumption. And I'm just thinking about myself with my wife, that if I stop talking and she doesn't say anything for 5 seconds, I assume she doesn't have anything to say, because if I were in her shoes, I would have something ready to go. Or I don't know. I'm sort of exaggerating for effect, but there are times when I have to say 5-10 seconds feels like an eternity to me of silence, but to her, it's like, oh, there's a silent moment. All right, let's get the motor running. Let's get the crank out. Like you're in the 20s and you're starting an old car. Oh, gotta choke. Okay, the motor's going. All right. Okay, put on my goggles. Put on my driving hat, my gloves. Meanwhile, I'm just waiting. See, but it's an assumption. So she just needed that time.
I don't know. I feel like there was something weird happening there towards the end of the night. I did. I don't know.
I didn't notice them. I kind of noticed them, but they were like way further on the other side. They were closer to you for sure.
All right, so now there's sort of a pall over their conversation, because in terms of the edit, all she said was, I think there was something weird going on with Tyler and Ashley. And he says, oh, I didn't notice. And then she says, you didn't notice? I thought there was something kind of weird. And he's like, oh, yeah, they were sort of over there. Silence. There's nothing more. And then he probably doesn't want to bring something else up or say anything, because he doesn't want to be chatty, right? Because if he just started talking again, then that wouldn't provide any kind of balance. But anyway, maybe something else is bothering her.
Very tired. Love you.
Okay. Yeah. So it's a weird moment. They're on camera and they know it, which can't be comfortable. That could be another factor for her of just like, oh my God, I'm on camera.
Ready? Mm-hmm. All right, let's do the damn thing.
Nobody will love you, yeah, love you like I do. And nobody will treat you.
All right, well, that does it for that episode. Everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.